Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. Just wanted to talk a bit today about wants versus needs. You hear the word need thrown around a lot in the prepping community, and when I first started this prepping adventure many years ago, I shouldn't say many years ago, it's only been about 4 or 5 years, but when I first started, I was very skeptical of the word need, because a lot of preppers throw it around as, they use it too much to describe things which, you may need, but they may be beneficial, maybe items of convenience, but not particularly things that you're going to need in the sense that you're not going to be able to survive without them. And for me, the word need really does entail either you have it or you don't survive. The video I did recently regarding technological dependence, there was some miscommunication perhaps on my part with what I was trying to convey. I was trying to demonstrate the interconnectedness of this system in which we live and just how frail it is. And I used the example of a paperclip to demonstrate just how much is needed in order to bring us the commodities that we enjoy in the modern day. I wasn't saying that that's the only system. I wasn't saying that that's the only way it could be or should be. I'm just saying, in this context, in this relative monetary environment that we live in, that's sort of the way it is. And if any one of those pillars were to come down, the whole building would come down. So I wasn't necessarily saying that that's the only way that it can be, or that we necessarily need paper clips or we need GMOs or stuff like that. But within the current paradigm, that's pretty much a requirement now, because we are locked into this system. And to give you an example of that, now because of pesticide resistance, farmers who otherwise want it to be organic can't be anymore because the pests are so hardened by these chemicals. Natural selection has bred superbugs, and the only people who can get protection now are people who use these chemicals and GMOs perhaps to make a living. So that's just one example. But in terms of wants versus needs, getting back to that, you see a lot of the fear gear stuff, and I do lots of gear reviews too. I try to do novel gear reviews that are unique and that you might not see in many places. And I never use the word need in those videos, because really, when I've been through hard times too, I know what it is to be poor. A person only needs, 2 feet and a heartbeat, some food to eat, some warm clothes. Need is a very, very big word. Need to survive and need to thrive are two different things. If you're talking about survival, you don't need the Maxpedition backpack, or I can't remember what the one I was looking at. I went instead and got a bag from Value Village, which cost $15. They have this one called the Maxpedition Operator, which I think it's like $200 or something like that. And, I went and got something from a thrift store, which, it's brand new pretty much. And it pretty much looks, I shouldn't say it looks the same. It doesn't have the MOLLE system or anything like that. But, it works, I don't think the extra $200 is going to increase your survivability that much. And I would definitely not use the word need. And so many people that I see with these gear reviews say you need this and you need that. You need it to what? You need it to thrive, perhaps. Need it to survive? No, I don't think so. You look at third world countries, and I use the term third world, with quotations, because that's what it's been termed, but by the Western civilization. But If the grid ever went down, these impoverished countries that are predominantly rural would not be affected so much as we would, because they're already in a grid down. They already don't have the grid, so the needs there are just, they just need to be able to subsist off the land. Now in the modern day, you could argue that due to the urbanization of things, needs are different. And that because there's such high population densities in such small regions, that needs start to go well beyond the physiological level and really do get into the more security and the higher levels of Maslow's hierarchy, which deal more with the social aspects and stuff like that, So yeah, you might need a certain amount of gasoline stored. You might need a certain round of ammunition, or you might need that extra, that scope on that gun or something like that, which otherwise you might not necessarily be able to say that you needed it, but due to the current environment in which we're in, it could be argued that it is a necessity on some level to get an edge over others. And really that's all it comes down to, is getting an edge. The more money you pay, arguably you're getting a sharper knife, you're getting a faster bullet, you're getting a more accurate weapon, you're getting a more hardy seed, But at the end of the day, what's needed and what's wanted are two entirely different things. So, when I do these gear videos, yeah, I think gear is cool. I think technology is cool. And I think it's definitely not something to shy away from. I don't believe in being a technophobe, or, I'm not a Luddite. The Luddites, they wanted to resist the mechanization of society, the automation of society, and I'm not necessarily doing that. But I do think, it's good to keep things in perspective, and sometimes it really annoys me how polished some of these gear review channels are. Like, you get these guys coming out, looks like they just spent a day at the office or something, and then they're in the bush, in the wilderness, talking about, what you need to survive, and doing this product review in their backyard, which, looks like a forest to the untrained eye, when really, it's just down by the creek, probably, where the sewage gets poured out from the city or something like that, So, I don't know. I mean, sometimes that really annoys me, and you see all these people who obviously never really roughed it in the bush. And then there's so many who have, but they're not really into that sort of self-promotion and whatnot. But, what you need and what you desire are two entirely separate things. A person could survive with a knife in the wilderness if you had the will and the know-how. Obviously, it wouldn't be easy, and chances are most people would capitulate to the forces of nature. But you could do it. That's the thing. You could survive. Could you thrive? Well, if you had the knowledge, you could possibly thrive in the sense of having an abundance and having a surplus. Could you thrive in the sense of, fiber optic cables and biotechnology and stuff like that? No, obviously not. You need civilization for that. But you could survive. So, don't get too caught up in getting the best gear stuff, because sometimes it can even slow you down. Sometimes I've found that if your stuff is too new and it's not broken in, there's that period where you have to sort of break something in, and you have to sort of get to the point where you don't care about wrecking it. And it's hard for people to get to that point. I think if you have too much new stuff and you've never really tested it before, it's hard to just get out there and start kicking the shit out of it right away. Because any new thing you have, you want to sort of take care of it until you understand all the nuances of that thing, and then you can sort of start to treat it a bit more roughly. But yeah, so get out there and, use your gear and put it to the test, and try to, don't be afraid of damaging it. If you do, then it's all the more lesson learned about, about what works and what doesn't. And I used to think, I want to save my preps so that I know they're going to perform when I need them to. But, what is more important? That they perform at their optimal level, or that you have training with that specific item or technology? So now I try to be a little less careful with things, in the sense that I put my stuff in, I implement my my tools and stuff like that into what I'm doing in the wilderness, or whether it's just in EDC use, everyday carry use. So let me know what you think about needs versus wants. Thanks for watching. Canadian Prepper out.